Hello, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. This is the second webinar as part of a series of webinars where we discuss and share what helps folks like you in the construction space. I am Homa Saleh, Head of Sales and Business Development here at BlueTape. Today, we're very excited to talk about the top tech trends in the construction industry. Let me introduce our presenter, Patrick Gannon. Patrick is an MIT and Wharton trained executive who has spent his career leading innovations in financial products and services. He established and grew the online lending industry as a founding team member of Lending Club and Uplift. Now he is COO of BlueTape, a payment and financing company serving the construction industry. Thank you, Patrick, for bringing this important topic for discussion. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Emma. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today. The construction industry is seeing the introduction of technology at an increasingly rapid pace over the last few years, with drivers from the pandemic to strategic necessity. Builders and suppliers are adopting tech, and they're really beginning to put it to work.
Yeah, and I also wanted to let everybody know that as this webinar goes on, I want you guys to think about questions and comments that come to mind, and let us know in the Q&A section or share your comments on the chat. Sorry, Patrick,
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, absolutely. Please do chime in if you have questions. Thanks. So before we get into the specifics of the top tech for 2022, I think it's important to remind ourselves that there are some pretty important strategic reasons to adopt technology. First is increasing sales. And you can increase sales by reaching more customers and offering more products. Technology allows us to do that. Secondly, reducing costs by reducing rework, errors, accidents, design flaws, and all the other things that add up to extra unexpected costs. And then third, the competition. Don't be left behind by the competition. Technology can be an advantage in operations, financial performance, and even in hiring. So what is the future state of construction technology? We'd like to describe three main areas as sort of the future vision. First of all, the job site tech. This is the technology that will be, it started to be and will be on site and integrated into everyday work. And that ranges from digital data being available on all the activities, devices all being interconnected, and automated operations and autonomous vehicles. The second is around coordination and workflow systems. And this ranges from coordination to scheduling to optimization of various resources. The third is the sort of behind the curtain supporting services. And this is to help make compliance, contracts, accounting, reporting, and payments all work better for you. Now, if you look at this, this looks like a lot of technology in the future state. And I know some people ask, well, what about all the people? And I should add that even with all of these in place, we're not eliminating the need for people in construction. We're making their jobs easier to do.
That's a very good point, Patrick. I've heard a lot of folks in the industry that not just in this industry, every industry, the technology comes over and takes over the jobs of their employees. And it's good to reiterate and sort of highlight that technology is here to help us, not replace us to some degree.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now let's get into some of the details. First, we'd like to talk about job site automation. Automation is becoming the new normal. So if you go to a job site today, you'll see that the integration of technology into the normal workday is really changing the face of construction. You see things ranging from 3D printed buildings to BIMs, or building information management systems, which, by the way, in case you haven't run across them, they integrate design, construction, and operations of a building with tons of data. Third, autonomous vehicles like this very cool autonomous bulldozer. And then fourth, wearable tech like watches, phones, tablets, and beyond. So let's dig into each of these just a little bit.
And Patrick, when you say autonomous, does that mean that there's no driver? Basically, it's being controlled with a device that this gentleman is currently holding, like an iPad, even, or hardware device.
It can be integrated into any number of different systems. You can put the building's plans in and wind it up and let it go, or you can direct it around with the equivalent of a joystick.
I think it's every person's dream to one day, play with one of these bulldozers, like it's like when they were 5 years old.
So let's talk briefly about 3D printing in construction. You may have heard that in 2021, the first 3D printed house, entirely 3D printed house, was sold in the United States, which is pretty amazing. Look at the size of the market, however. In 2020, the market was already at $7 billion. Obviously not in completed houses, but more in pieces and parts. And that is expected to grow at a huge rate through almost 2028. So what does this mean? We're not entirely sure, but the materials required to build buildings may look different in the future. Next, BIM, so building information management systems. I mentioned before that these help in the design and coordination of buildings, from design to building to operating, and it's already a well-established market. 2020, over $5 billion spent, expected to hit $10 billion just in the next few years. This extends the benefits of digital design, where you can just look at it on screen, into the actual building and operating phases of construction, being able to generate all sorts of information that makes your job as a general contractor or material supplier a lot easier. Next, the autonomous vehicles. Surprisingly, it's already an $8 billion market, expected to grow significantly to $25 billion. Depends on the kind of job, but where applicable, you can get increased safety, productivity, and efficiency out of this equipment. And then finally, wearables and devices. So the industrial wearable devices market was at $4 billion in 2019, with construction being a part of that. And these range basically from safety to connectivity, with a couple of very interesting exceptions. The pictures you see here are exosuits that give the user additional strength and stability and allow them to do things that might have only been available with equipment before. But wearables and devices range from smart helmets and glasses and boots to the Apple Watches and iPads and phones that everyone seems to be carrying around. When surveyed, 40% of contractors said that skills in these new technologies are critical. And nearly all of those 40% reported that they're investing in new technology to help automate processes in construction. And then on the other side of the table, 70% of what's called deskless workers, people who work in the field, have said that that technology helps them do their job better. So not replace them, but helps them do it better. On the wearables side, you can see 60% of the deskless workers have already received equipment from their employers. And perhaps the most interesting number on this slide is that 75% of prospective workers said that the technology used by a prospective employer helps them pick who they want to work for. And that is a significant change in construction.
So you're saying that, these employers are looking for people who are understanding and adapting new technologies because ultimately it helps them and their business. And it's good to know what's out there and what's useful.
Yes, and vice versa. Prospective workers, they don't want to use old technology if there's new technology available.
Yes, that's exactly. So it's a two-way street. Makes sense.
Yep. Switch gears and talk about data analytics. So data analytics are really hugely important across every industry. There are entire new careers out there, like being a data scientist. Data analytics are about making better business decisions based on data, and the construction industry is beginning to adopt it. So let's talk about some of the specific things that you can do with data analytics. So data can come from any number of sources. Let's look at information that comes from on the job. So sensors and connected devices are sources for an incredible amount of data in construction. That data is fed into multiple systems, including BIMs, as we mentioned before. And by having this data, you can have a really significant impact on the way your business runs. So for example, look at the numbers here on the screen. Time to generate a quote, down 80%. Number of project change requests, which are always painful and expensive, down 40%. Time spent, down 7%. And for those folks who have actually installed BIM systems, 75% of them think that they've had a positive return on investment, which, given the number of years they've been around, is an excellent number. By using digital design and BIM-like systems, you can order better, you can manage your supplies better, and you can get a better grip on your entire supply chain. So collaboration and workflow. Well, if you weren't using them in 2019, you've most certainly started using them in 2020. What am I talking about? Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, you name it. They're everywhere today. But those are only the beginning of collaborative and workflow tools. Set Zoom aside for a moment and look at the impact that these tools are having in construction. Collaboration and workflow solutions range from project management to file sharing to invoice management. And firms that are using these systems are seeing productivity boosts up to 60%. One of the more compelling things that I found in looking into this is that in one study, 91% of contractors thought that real-time collaboration software reduced risk on their construction sites. Because they were able to give instructions at the right time, they were able to guide crew members to make safer decisions and less riskier decisions. In addition, construction project management software and BIM improve communications and reduce uncertainty between the parties involved in a building. That means that you've got fewer disputes, fewer delays, and reduced overages. Automated accounts receivable, that improves financial performance by taking the guesswork out of payments and collections. And then probably biggest in the gee whiz category is augmented reality. Augmented reality, people typically think of gaming and so forth, but in construction, it can be put to use for planning buildings as well as for training and safety purposes.
That's incredible. I mean, the fact that we can reduce risk by using something that is usually used for collaboration workflow, it shows you that a technology can, it can be very intuitive and it can help in ways that you never thought it would be. And so this is the exact reason and example why we're going through this, because folks like you all want to know how to reduce risks, how to sell more, how to optimize in different ways of your business. And this is really, really eye-opening. So thank you for that.
And keep in mind, Homa, that so many of the newer workers in the industry grew up with so much of this technology being immersed in it. And so things that might seem maybe a little unusual or artificial construct to some of us more experienced folks come very naturally to them. And it fits well into their everyday work.
Yeah. And, in every business, you see that when generations, to generation, especially in the construction industry, the next generation has been exposed to more technology and different as always, trying to be a little bit better and doing the work. So it's good to see that, by going through these technology trends, we're able to open the eyes of not just the ones that are already using it probably, but the ones that may not be using it or haven't thought about it. And it's just a good eye opener. Yeah.
Now, another topic we wanted to talk about is one that is super familiar to everyone here: e-commerce. Interestingly, the construction industry is really just beginning to embrace online commerce in ways that other industries started a long time ago. Construction is a $1 trillion market. It's just beginning to transact on the internet. For example, there are project bidding sites where you can go and bid on jobs. Thousands up to hundreds of thousands of contracts are up for bid right now. When you look at some of the numbers of what's going on out there, another interesting one is that today, over 1/3 of equipment rentals for construction are being done online. That's already today. And in a recent survey, B2B buyers, 85% of them said that they preferred self-service tools for reordering. So, when they know what they want, why not just log on to whatever or send them an invoice and have them push the button and be ready to go. Let's try to make things simple. And payments are a challenge in every industry, and construction's no exception. This is in contrast to e-commerce, right? Online transactions can be so simple. Why can't the other transactions in construction be as simple to complete? If you look at some of the numbers today, 75% of the payments in the industry are still done by check. And over 19% of the payments are late. And many companies find that credit card fees are prohibitively expensive. Collecting on payments can take time if you're offering credit. And really all of this adds up to an industry with the longest day sales outstanding of any industry in the United States.
I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, now I'm curious to see, you have the question here, where's technology? Because can technology solve these? It's payments. So it'd be interesting to give insight into this. And from going to exosuits, those are cool tools to wear and these robotics to handle, to something that's really hits people hard, which is getting paid on time, is I think where technology can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fundamental need. So at BlueTape, we see the need to solve the payments problem with construction-friendly technology that works on the job site and in the back office. And just briefly, BlueTape offers automated payments and financing to builders and suppliers. We use mobile-friendly technology and make it simple to pay or get paid using text messages and emails. We also offer modern payment solutions to improve financial performance. There's no software installation, works with all of your systems. It's easy to get started. It's really next generation technology that makes some of the older systems pale in comparison. So, it automates your accounts receivable and incorporates itself and integrates itself with your accounting and ERP systems, low fees, reduced risk.
And importantly enough, you don't have to have additional hardware. All of your customers and yourself already probably own a computer, or at least a mobile phone, hopefully.
Yeah, the only hardware you need is something you're already carrying around, which is your mobile phone. That's the only minimum hardware required. And
I used to call that one of our additional limbs that we have created for ourselves. We've got our arms and legs, and now we have the mobile device, and it's become part of us. Sometimes to the point where if I lose my child, my keys, and my phone, I don't want to say which one I go for first.
I'm not going to ask you.
It's good to know that this is mobile first. So that's all I'm saying.
Mobile first, indeed. Okay.
Indeed.
So in addition to payments, BlueTape offers credit options, and it allows construction pros to finance materials purchases on a 30, 60, or 90-day basis. Again, it's a quick, simple sign-up process, and we make decisions in real time using next generation technology to come up with smart credit decisions. And if they're interested, folks can get started today with no fee or commitments. Just sign up, send us an invoice, and we'll do the rest. So I'd be happy to take any questions that you have about tech trends for 2022. And if you want to just type them into the Q&A there, or Homa, if you've received any others.
Yeah, so we're going to ask, we'll give everybody a minute just so they find the Q&A section or the chat section, send us your comments, your questions, things that you have been using that might have been helpful for your business. Cool story that you might have. Would love to hear it, because everybody here, is here because they want to learn and they want to share what they've learned, and that's very helpful. So
if anyone has worn an exosuit, I want to know what the heaviest thing you've picked up is.
That would be cool to know. Yes. If anything, I'll send us a survey question just so we have that in place. All right. So I have one question coming in. It's asking, I don't want to deal with any new tech. It can be a headache. What advice do you have? I think what they mean is like sometimes technology can be overwhelming with installations and software, and so it can be overwhelming in that sense. But getting it all up and ready, yeah.
So I mean, I get it. When we were putting together this information, just the number of things that's going on, it's kind of overwhelming. This presentation could have been a list 1 through 100 of things that are happening. So I understand that it can be overwhelming. However, I think it's important to just harken back to those strategic imperatives, right? If you want to increase sales, if you want to decrease costs, and if you want to keep up with the competition, you have to make some smart choices about deploying technology. Now, not everyone needs an exosuit necessarily, but if you are in the process of designing complex buildings, it's probably worth looking into the BIMs. If you're doing payments and need credit, You could work with BlueTape. Cut it down to some of the really key requirements and look for industry leading solutions that can fit your budget.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I was thinking about this as you were talking about it, and one advice I have always given when it comes to technology is look for technology that makes it easier for you to do your job, not harder, right? So look for the ease of implementing it or putting it into place. So the best technologies are the ones that, again, let you start easy. So I have one other, yeah, go ahead.
To build on that, I think the other way to think about that is if you can use them in an incremental fashion, use them for one thing that you do or one set of tasks that you do, and then if it works for you, expand it. That's a really useful way to bring technology on versus back in the old days you had to go and buy a IBM mini computer and install it and train everyone. You don't need that anymore with the current technology.
Yeah. Actually, following that question, I have one question that says, to use BlueTape, do I need to train my team? That's a very good question.
Yeah. So I don't want to say no, but no, right? It's the first time you do it, it'll take you a couple of minutes. And then after that, it's very obvious. If you're a supplier who wants to get an invoice paid, it's essentially sending a text message or an email to one of your contractors with the invoice, and they're directed to us to pay automatically. It's very simple. So, of course, the BlueTape team would be happy to take you through sample transactions and show you how it works, but you're not going to have a big learning curve.
Right. And I think this goes into I think one of the last questions what we can take is, how long does it take to get set up? And
setup, it depends. For me, I'm not very good at using my phone to type things in. Probably take me 10 minutes. I think for most people, it's 5 minutes worth of typing. It's, taking down some information about your company, and we needed to establish, identities. It's very, very straightforward and does not take long to set up at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that takes us to the end of this webinar. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Don't forget to subscribe to our next webinar. So go on BlueTape.com. We have a ton of resources for you. And if you have any other questions that come to mind later, or if you have a cool video or picture of you wearing access to, do share with us on our Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you find us. Let us know. Thank you all. Thank you, Patrick. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.